For anyone who's watching live, my name is Hewitt Tomlin, and I'm the co-founder of TeamBuilder.com, which is an online strength conditioning software for high school, college, and pro coaches. I have two guests with me today. One is Matt Nein. He was the head strength and conditioning director at Salisbury University. Mike, did I get your title right? Or Matt,
yep.
Sorry.
Yep, you're good.
Cool. And also I have Mike Caro, who is with Transylvania University. And Mike, why don't you go ahead and tell us what your title is?
I'm the head strength and conditioning coach here as well.
Awesome. So this is a live stream and a podcast in one, which is great. And the whole point of doing this is to kind of give people a preview as to what's happening at NSCA Coaches Conference, which is in San Antonio, Texas, is taking place in January 7th through 9th. And I've been there about 3 years in a row now. This will be my fourth year. I'm really excited about it. Got a great lineup. And what's actually happening is there's going to be a pre-con event, a pre-conference event, and it's going to be a discussion held by Matt and Mike here. And Matt, why don't you go ahead and tell everyone what you're going to be talking about at the pre-con event?
Okay, well, Mike, he's done a lot of work already on this. He's kind of like he's been like the lead so far. But most of what we're looking at here is the small schools and how the small schools, deal with the day-to-day operations of their strength and conditioning program. And it's in high school, colleges. A lot of what we see at the Division III level is we don't have a lot of space, size, money, things along that line. So that's kind of be the generalization of what the the whole session's really about. And it'll be a roundtable discussion, so we're looking to gain ideas and really get a lot of information out during that session.
Yeah, so Matt, I noticed that it's November and you're not growing your beard or your mustache. Mike is clearly doing it, but are you not participating this year?
My wife might kill me if I do that. I'll donate the money, though. How about that?
We'll take money. Mike, tell us a little bit about the work you've been doing so far on this event.
Well, it all kind of started with the special interest group that we have, the Facebook special interest group, where I was just asking questions about how do you coaches deal with this, how do you small school coaches deal with that, and Brian Mann actually said it'd be a good idea to do a solution session at the conference, which I love presenting. I love educating as much as I love learning, so this kind of combines both things. So we're going to hit on a bunch of different topics because really, just like in the field itself, we face the same problems whether we're at a big Division I or an NAIA. So a chance for small school strength coaches to get together and all share on how they tackle certain problems. Everybody's got a different background, so they tackle things slightly different ways, and you never know if it's somebody at small school ABC does it one way and it's a little bit better than your way, or it's something you've never thought of. It's going to be a great opportunity for everybody to learn and educate people at the same time.
I've had the pleasure of attending like a roundtable format like this will be, and I've got to say that it's incredibly helpful to have multiple coaches kind of contribute ideas as opposed to having one speaker talk to a big room full of people. It's just a kind of a different perspective, and I like it. So I'm looking forward to this. I kind of wanted to start the discussion a little bit with somewhat of like a profound question. I was going to ask, is it possible to have a successful strength program with little to no budget at all, which is common at small schools? Yeah. And I think the obvious answer is yes, because if you don't have the mentality, you shouldn't be in that position anyway. You have to have the positive mentality. So my next question is this. It's taking it to the next level. Is it possible to have a top-notch strength and conditioning program with little to no budget? Is it possible?
I'll go ahead and go first on that one. And that's we went through and looked at why we do what we do and so forth, and that's our whole thing for here at Salisbury is to become the premier program in the country, or be one of the premier programs in the country at the Division III level. So we're kind of gearing our whole entire program around becoming that, and a lot of it has to do with the commitment. The commitment from me, the commitment from our athletic department, but we have no money. I've got a $0 budget. So we go, it's from fundraising to, I wouldn't say begging and pleading, but communicating with our coaching staff for help and things along that line. But, Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely possible. The commitment, putting that in, ends up being the biggest thing, and then next would be the relationships that are created. It's really getting the athletes to participate, to want to be there, to be excited to be there, to then develop in strength, power, size, whatever it is that we're focusing on. I think that's all part of it, and then the less piece would be getting our name out there, is getting out there to the community. So we're hosting our first symposium in January, and again, it's designed for high school head coaches. So we want our high schools in the local area to be able to come to this place as to be the first location for any questions related in the field. So hopefully, I think we've got Ted Perlak, or somebody from the University of Delaware staff will be down presenting as well. So we're about 2 hours away, so it's nice to be able to pull them in and really kind of tackle the whole entire Eastern Shore with that. But I think that's a big part of it as well, is that if we want to become this nationally top-notch type program, we've got to expand out. We've got to help in presentations, whether it's serving on various NSCA committees or SIGs, things along that line, to really help get what we do out there and really help not just the athletes here, but again, other coaches, whether it's high school, college, you name it.
Well, I would say I think I'm in a slightly different position than Matt is. This is the first year my university's ever had a head strength and conditioning coach position. So for me, my answer to your question is I think so, I hope so, and that's what I'm going to try to do is build up as top-notch a strength and conditioning program as we can here with our limited space and funds. I came in about 2 months after the semester had already started, so I was already behind. We've got 26 teams at our school, and we have an 800 square foot weight room.
Yikes.
So yeah, so it's quite a challenge. I have one assistant that works kind of quarter time for me, works with 4 other teams. So a big thing for me, it's just flexibility. The coach has to be able to, we've got 3 gyms here, and they're all in different parts of campus. We've got an outdoor track that's blocks away, and our basement. So to build that program, like Matt said, you have to network, you have to connect, you have to create buy-in. The more important the faculty and the students and the athletes see your program as being, the more favor you'll get, the more coaches will, donate equipment, transfer some funds to you. And that's really the heart and soul of what this solution sessions is going to be about. Is okay, if you're new to being a small school strength coach, or if you've been there for a while, how do we accomplish these things? How do we make your small school, how do you make your small school program into a premier small school program? What do you have to do? What steps do you have to take? And what equipment do you need? What time do you need? What kind of personnel do you need? So it's really all about the challenge. But in this field, I think all of us can agree we enjoy challenges. That's why we do what we do. Being a strength coach is not an easy or glamorous job at all. But I enjoy hard work. I know a lot of the strength coaches out there enjoy hard work. That's why we like to work out. It's why we like to see athletes prosper. So it's all about the process and trying to become the best, really.
Yeah, I from the outside perspective, I think being a strength coach is kind of glamorous, but that's from the outsider view. There's a lot of groundwork and behind-the-scenes stuff that I know a lot of people don't sign up for. It's kind of like the hallmark of the industry, right? Once you get in, it's kind of like, hey, the excitement's over. This is what it's really like.
Oh yeah, it's a grind. Every day is a grind.
Yeah,
it's definitely a fun grind, though.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's part of our job too. Is we gotta get the athletes to enjoy it. We gotta get that helps create buy-in. Buy-in is, it's kind of a term that strength coaches just throw around all the time. But at a D3, 3/4 of the year we can't make athletes do strength and conditioning. It's voluntary. So buy-in for us, that's gold. The more buy-in you can create, the more coaches you can get behind you, the better your program will be.
Yeah, so this is a really interesting topic to me because we can talk about big budgets and we can talk about huge weight rooms and all the equipment you need, but buy-in from athletes is still key at the small school level because they still have to show up and do things and do it with effort. So do you think in the future it's going to be more important for strength coaches to understand the psychology of student athletes and how to motivate them and get them to be a participant in the program and not just a bystander?
I think it's a huge thing right now. If you go back a decade and a half, 2 decades ago, it was all about get in the weight room and lift and go out in the field and do some running. And then nutrition became huge. Strength coaches had to be able to educate their athletes on what to eat and when to eat it, what foods to avoid, supplements. We had to be knowledgeable about all of that. And I think just what you said, the next frontier, and I think it's already here. We've got to know how to get inside the athlete's head. We've got to know how to motivate different types of athletes. We have to know how to keep them responsible, keep them accountable. I mean, the strength coach's job, people see us in the weight room, but that's only a very small part of what we do.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I think it's something that it's right now, and if you're not doing it right now, you're going to be behind.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's your athletes aren't going to want to work for you. And I always say to my GAs and interns, things like that, you can design the best program in the world, but if you can't get your athlete to want to train and want to work, that program is absolutely worthless because they're not putting in the effort needed to get the intended outcome from that day's lift. So, I mean, the relationship development, being able to connect with the athletes, understanding who they are, just creating that is kind of one of the biggest things. I think that's the initial thing that really needs to start first, is really develop a quality relationship. And then from there, it's okay, now it's really starting to get inside of their head, and how can I get them to do something that they don't want to do, but they're actually now excited to do it because of just how we manipulated their mind. I think that's kind of like the fun stuff. That's like the hidden stuff that you don't really, people don't really talk about. But it's the getting into their head and really, figuring them out and getting them to really enjoy it. I mean, I've got one example. One of our basketball girls, freshman year, hated it. Did not want to come in. Just wanted to play basketball. She's begging me now for a T-shirt. Like, can I get one of your? You know what I mean? Just like all sorts of stuff. Just absolutely loves coming in there and getting after it. And I think those are some of the things that really need to be focused on. And X's and O's are good. And I mean, nowadays you can find just about anything you wanted on the internet in terms of a program. So you can do that, but it's all about, again, I think the coach that's in there that is moderating that, and that's where those athletes become that elite level when they're consistent in their training, coming in, getting after it, and to me, that's coach-driven because, like I said, you could do any workout online, and if you have no motivation or whatever it is, you're not going to get very, instrumentally or incrementally better in what you're doing.
So this is certainly a topic that will be covered at the pre-con event, right? The kind of mental psychology side of student athletes and being a strength coach.
Yeah, definitely. We're going to talk a lot about relationship building with administration, with the coaches, and then with the teams, and then all the way down to individuals. How can you create buy-in at all those levels? How can you get support from all of those levels to bolster your program?
So this topic kind of leads into another one that popped up on the Facebook group, believe it or not. If anyone's listening out there or watching the recording, there's this fantastic Facebook group. It's the NSCA, I think it's the Collegiate Coaches Facebook group, the one that Brian Mann is running.
Yep.
The topic came up of, as a strength coach, is it an appropriate philosophy to use exercise to punish an athlete? And not to get too serious in this discussion, but about half a year ago, there was a strength coach down in Louisiana, a collegiate strength coach that ran an athlete for being late, and she ended up getting fired. And this is kind of like one of these moments where the strength community kind of says, wait a second, should we reevaluate how our industry handles this topic? So I did a quick Twitter poll on the Team Builder Twitter, which goes out to a couple thousand strength coaches, and the Twitter poll had about 65 participants, and the question said, is using exercise as punishment a good philosophy for a strength coach? And about 42% said yes, it is acceptable, and about 58% said no, use an alternative. So, do those numbers surprise you? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I would say that 48%?
42.
Or 42%. I mean, to me, I think that's a high number. But I would say it doesn't surprise me. I think a lot of what I see in this field is we do what we've always done, and we don't necessarily know better. And I think that's an issue, and I think that occurs through multiple things, not just in treating punishments or exercises, punishment, things like that. But I think in terms to optimally get, why are you even having to punish somebody? That's my first thing is, why is that even happening? Why are they showing up late? Because if they really want to be there, they're not going to be late. And that's the thing is, can I get the athletes to just want to be there, that they're 15, 20 minutes early and they're rolling out or doing whatever, getting some extra work in just because they're so passionate about it. And I think that's where it needs to start, and then you don't have those problems. But occasionally, that happens, and my thing is, I want the guys to run in the off season, so why would I use exercise or running as a punishment to where they're going to hate running at that point? I already have a hard enough time over the summer getting them to do their work anyway, especially consistently. So now I'm going to say, okay, let's make it even worse, and let's put a negative association with running. And now what are we really getting over the summer? And for most of our teams, the summer is, I say for every team, is really one of their most influential times. It's like 18 weeks where they can get a lot of quality work done if they're motivated and excited to do it. But I really disagree with that. I mean, maybe it's a new school of thought. Why can't we just talk to people?
I would definitely agree that being proactive is the best thing you can do. We talk a lot about creating that buy-in and getting inside the athlete's head. Proactivity and making them want to be there is the best thing. But when it comes down to it, there's only so many things you can do to keep them accountable. I actually was a person that posted that question because I had a coach here who runs their athletes a lot as part of their sport. Asked me, what can I do in the weight room, because my athlete's already really good at running. So what can I do to punish them in the weight room? I told this coach, I don't know. I don't have any ideas. I like being in the weight room. I want athletes to like being in the weight room, and the more you have that negative association with the weight room, the less I can get them in there. So I believe it's the NSCA's position that playing time, from what I've read, a lot of people in the NSCA say playing time should be the punishment. Take away playing time, take away something they want. Just like if you have an athlete that kills it in the weight room and they show up late, if you kick them out, you're taking away something they want. They'll want to get back in there. But I'm surprised by that statistic as well. I think it's kind of an old school thought. There's still a lot of old school strength coaches. So it's just one of those things that I think from a psychological standpoint, exactly what Matt said, we've got to create a positive association with them getting better, and not use a method to punish them that we use throughout the year to get them better.
Yeah.
It's like, go ahead.
I was going to say, the other thing with that, looking where you talk about like the mental aspects, like physiologically and mentally, what are we doing, to them? Like, especially if they're in season, it's even worse.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to put them into a situation where they're already, they're probably overtrained per se. They're going constantly hard in practice 6 days a week because we're not monitoring intensity or anything along that line. And then we're going to say, okay, you were late. Now I'm really going to kill you doing sprint work or things like that. And now what's our recovery? And yeah, we could say, where are we at here in the next week? But more so, where are we at 15 weeks from now once the season is winding into NCAA tournament time or conference tournament time, and we never allowed optimal recovery to ever occur. So we keep reintroducing these high-intensity based sessions, and all of a sudden, for what? Was it really worth it at that point? And that's a big thing that I don't even know if the coaches really think of that stuff. They just, hey, when I was younger, it worked for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And to that effect, what happens when you get an athlete that's just in really good shape, and you're going to run them until they're just going to keep running, and like you said, all of a sudden they're overtrained, and we've got them, they've got a game 2 days away, they're sore for the game, the team doesn't compete well. And personally, we don't have football here at Transy, but I think a lot of football strength coaches catch the worst of it because, by and large, if the football coach says, I need you to run this guy till he pukes, he showed up to practice late, you pretty much have to do it. So that's a tough position to be in for a lot of strength coaches. They're kind of caught in the middle.
Yeah.
So you can tell that these issues, they're not separate from one another. Athlete psychology, how you handle punishment, and then relationship with coach and administrators, they're all kind of tied into one another. It kind of explains how everyone really should be on the same page about the philosophy and how people do things. Now, at Transy, with 26 different sports, that's 26 different coaches. That's you as a strength coach, and then that's administrators.
Yep.
Would you say everyone is on the same page about the philosophy in the strength room?
We're still trying to get the word out. It's kind of tough. I don't get a chance to stand up in front of all the coaches and say, okay, here's who I am. This is what I believe. This is what I want you to do. This is what I'm going to do. So I try to get as much information out there as possible. Luckily, we have a phenomenal athletic director here, and she gives me a lot of leeway in how I run my program and getting funding and getting things paid for. So our coaches, by and large, are on the same page when it comes to being agreeable. I don't have any altercations with coaches, differing philosophies. They're open to what I suggest to them. I'm open to what they suggest to me. So luckily, so far, it's been a great deal here. And it's a great position to be in, really. We've got some great athletes. So it's an amazing school. And like I said, we don't have a lot, but we can only go up. And the athletics department, the president, the athletic director, all the coaches, we're really looking forward to what the future will bring for strength and conditioning and what it'll mean for our athletics.
You sound like a fresh new guy. You got that energy. I'm just giving you a hard time.
Well, I'm new here, but I'm not new to the field.
That's true. So when I asked that question, Matt started laughing. Matt, what would you say about Salisbury and all those coaches and admins being on the same page about the strength philosophy?
In terms of I say strength philosophy, they're aboard with what we do. In terms of getting, I'd say complete buy-in, probably not on that aspect. For example, this is my 12th year here, so we're finally getting, some of our teams are finally getting in-season training. That this is their first year doing it. And now we've been advocates with it. Every year and saying, hey, let's see, and we're trying different means. We're showing data. We're, talking about, different recovery methods and things like that. And, 12 years into it, they're finally doing. Now they've been doing the off-season stuff, and just loving it and seeing great results. And the athletes are coming back saying, oh, I really think this is something that we need to continue with. And then just an old school methodology, I don't know. Are they going to be too tired? And again, they're hearing what we're saying in terms of the research and information and data that we're not going to kill them, but they have a hard time letting it go in season because that's what they're judged on at that point. So there has been, I guess, a little bit, just I guess hesitations. I mean, out of season, full go ahead, do whatever you got to do. Yeah. But then the hesitations start coming when it's now the in-season part, and to me, I think that's a big component. We looked at some of our data from last year with our men's basketball program, and we had issues where we missed a few lifts for whatever reason. We had some snow issues, some cancellations, things like that, and based off of how game scheduling was, it drastically affected our strength numbers. Because our coach, we didn't have like easy games where if we were sore, we couldn't do that, and so we had a hard time reintroducing heavier based work back into our program, and so our strength numbers dropped greater than I thought they should have, or greater than I would like to, so it's one of those things that I can now go and talk to our head coach now and say, hey, this is what the issue was. We got to make sure no matter what we're doing, because it's not on me. Like I get the cancellation coming from them, say, oh, our guys are tired. I'm sorry, we're not going to be able to lift today. Saying that can't happen. Like we need to be where I think you can be. Those little things like that are I think big things. We're in the NCAA tournament time, round of 32, and our guys are virtually 20 pounds weaker. When they tested preseason. You know, would I like it to be a lot better than that? Yeah, I mean, you know, definitely. So it's, you know, I think having that data, stuff like that, is a tool to help go back and, you know, communicate with your coaches and talk it out. But yeah, I mean, we still fight it 12 years later, and we're going to still fight it. I can guarantee you. You know, we have some programs here that, you know, still don't in-season train. They lose 2 games and they blame us. You know, it's our fault. Which, you know, and, you know, my guys that are in there working with them, you know, they're not doing anything that they wouldn't do with, you know, any other team at any given point. And, you know, it's that letting go that is very, very challenging.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it seems like an issue that will persist no matter where you are, right?
Yeah, hopefully not.
It can be tough, and sometimes the best thing you can do, what I've done with some of my coaches is, you know, I schedule a strength and conditioning session, and I just bring foam rollers. And I tell them, all right, I'm just going to get your athletes relaxed, and sometimes you just got to ease them into it. I've had experiences with coaches like that in other places I've been. We don't want to lift in season. It'll make them tight. It'll make them tired. And so I just, oh, hey, we're going to schedule some time, maybe do some yoga, do some foam rolling, do a little injury prevention stuff. Coaches love that, and it's, you know, I mean, it's a necessity. So, you know, it might
it's
take 12
playing with
years.
their mind again.
Exactly, it might take 12 years, but eventually you can come down.
Mike, don't divulge all the content. The NSCA is going to come after me for stealing their session. They're going to come down here and beat me up. So, hey, guys, we have about a minute left. I thought we'd wrap up by telling any viewers or any listeners why should they show up to NSCA coaches, and why should they show up to the pre-con session? We all know why, but let's go ahead and give them the last kind of pitch about why it's so important to coach education to come down to this thing.
You know, biggest thing is if you're not learning, you're not growing. You're getting worse. So to me, that's one of the biggest things is you got to continue to be an open book. Things are constantly evolving day in and day out. There's so many good things that come from these conferences. You know, whether it is the coaches conference or your regionals, even your state sessions with the NSCA. I mean, there is a ton of great presenters. I mean, you guys can see the list online. You know, there is, you know, some of the greatest you know, strength coaches in the business are going to be presenting at this conference. So some awesome topics. I mean, I was looking at them and going through them, trying to like already highlight what I like, where I want to go. You know, how can I get? I kind of want to get to this one, and you know, so we're sending somebody else to another one just so that we can, you know, see everything. But there's a tremendous amount. And same thing, the pre-con. I think this might be one of the first pre-cons where they're free, I believe, as part of the regular session. So, you know, looking at it, there's some great pre-con sessions. Well, one is ours, but you know, some of the other ones on there are actually like really, really good. I mean, this would have been, even if I wasn't presenting, I would have definitely been at the pre-con just because of some of the great presentations that are there. You know, they've got, you know, some speed and agility stuff that are occurring. So definitely, in terms of growth as a professional, you've got to continue to grow. If you're not reading something every day, I don't think you're getting better as a professional at that point. So
I think, you know, the NSCA hands down it's the best source of information. They do a great job of information sharing and pushing information out to their coaches and their constituents, and this is one of the premier events for collegiate strength coaches. The amount of information that's shared, and not just being put at you, but the availability of all the presenters to speak with you afterwards. I spent 45 minutes talking to someone who just gave a 30-minute presentation before on their topic, and just the availability of people to talk, to share ideas, it's unprecedented. And the NSCA does a great job with these pre-cons and giving as much content and making them as available as possible. And you know, one of the great things about a solution session, about a roundtable, is we're not just going to throw information at people. We're going to pose situations, and we're going to ask, what do you do? You know, what do you do in North Dakota? What do you do down in Florida? You know, how do you guys approach these? Well, you know, we'll share the ideas, and everyone will come out of it having given and having taken, and definitely be a lot more educated at the end.
That's awesome. Guys, I want to say thank you so much for doing this with me. I know this is new. But I think people are really going to enjoy it and really going to learn something from this. And the pre-con session is going to be amazing. I'll be there, so I'll see you guys there as well. If I'm allowed in, I'm not really sure. But anyway, I'll be around, so maybe you guys can give me a little VIP pass or something.
We'll get you in. We'll get you in.
I appreciate that. And everyone who listened in today, want to